it's interesting that, we talk about colleges and education and trying to graduate our children from college and give them the best access to life that they want, right? We need to go to college to give them the skill set in order for them to succeed in life, right? This is supposed to be the goal, right? So they get a college education, they go out, they're able to get better paying jobs and be able to sustain themselves, et cetera. And of course, the student tuition, student loan debt has become an issue. It was interesting. There was a college commencement last week, and the keynote speaker they brought in was a billionaire, and he basically paid off everybody's student loan at commencement. So for the class of 2019, it's interesting because I'm sure he was very calculated in how he did this, because it wasn't a large graduating class, right? But he did pay off everybody's student loans. A very altruistic, move on his part. Got a lot of publicity for it. Good for him. I don't want to be the guy behind him. Next year they go, Brent, would you like to come be the commencement speaker? No.
How many's in the class?
Exactly. No, I don't want to be the commencement speaker. You can't follow that up. They're going to have that guy back every year from now. Nobody's going to want to do it. But anyway, it was a nice gesture. But the problem is, we've talked about this before, is that we continue to do things to impede our educational system, from STAR testing to trying to homogenize all of our educational systems so everybody's treated equally, and we kind of eliminate free thinking, and we don't really instruct. We don't instruct people how to think critically. What we do is we teach people how to take tests, which doesn't really prepare them for life. I mean, how many people I wrote an article yesterday about the 5 laws of human stupidity. And a lot of this comes out of the fact that our educational system doesn't teach common sense. How many people do you know that are whip book smart? I mean, you can ask them anything and they can pretty much quote you what it is, but cannot figure out how to get out of the rain, right? I mean, just no common sense whatsoever. How many people do you know like that? I know tons of them. My son is one of them. If you're listening to the show, I love you, but come on. Umbrellas. That's all I'm saying. But the point is that we keep doing things to our educational system to try to impede the process. And I thought this new thing was interesting. It's a grievance proxy that's being implemented by the SAT. In order to go to college, you have to take the SAT, right? ACT, SAT. Most people take the SAT. That's what is your college entrance exam. How you score on that test is supposed to be a measure of your aptitude and intelligence and critical thinking skills. I mean, that's kind of the part of the SAT test. To use that as a baseline to compare you to the other candidates in order for colleges to make the application process, right? So whether they accept you or not. For decades, the College Board has defended the SAT, which it writes and administers, against charges that the test gives an unfair advantage to middle-class white students. No longer. Under pressure from the racial preferences lobby, the board has now caved into I'll spit that out.
Meritocracy?
Yes. Anti-meritocracy. I'll tell Joseph to spit that out. Tongue-tied. Ideology of diversity. Okay. The board will calculate each SAT taker on an adversity score that purports to measure a student's socioeconomic position, according to the Wall Street Journal. Now, what constitutes an adversity score, right? So race, your income level. If you're low income, right, you have an adversity score. If you are a single parent household, you have an adversity score. And this can be up to 100 points on the SAT just based on your socioeconomic standing and race. Now, advocates claim that this is not about race. This is about the socioeconomic standing of people. The SAT adversity score is simply the latest response of part of the mainstream. The average white SAT score, which is 1123 out of a possible 1,600, is 177 points higher than the average black score of 946. I'm reading this from Wall Street Journal. And this is the approximately a one standard deviation in scores between whites and blacks. Now, the problem is this gap has persisted for decades, and it's not explained by socioeconomic disparities. The Journal of Blacks in Higher Education reported in 1998 that white students from households with incomes of $10,000 or less score better on SATs than black students from households with incomes of $80,000 to $100,000. In 2015, students with family incomes of $20,000 or less, now this is across all races, scored higher on average of the math SAT than the average math score of black students from all income levels. So all races below 20,000 scored higher than blacks of incomes of higher levels. Now, when it comes to Asians, they outperform everybody. Asian students outscore white students by the SAT by an average of 100 points. They outscore blacks on average by 277 points. And it's not that Asian families' economic capital that vaults them to the top of the academic totem. It's their emphasis on scholarly effort and self-discipline. Every year in New York City, Asian elementary school students vastly outperform every other racial and ethnic group on the admissions test for the city's competitive public high schools, even though a disproportionate number of them come from poor immigrant families. So the point goes back to what we've talked about here before, is that the educational system, once the Department of Education was formed in 1980 and they took over the educational system, we went from ranking number 1 and number 2 in the world for all of your basic STEM courses, science, math, etc. We now rank 27, 28, 29, 30, right? I mean, we rank below Estonia in terms of our educational system. I mean, that doesn't really warrant a lot of kudos for our Department of Education in terms of what we've done to our educational system across the board. And of course, what's interesting about this whole SAT thing is that how many people are going to game the system? What are they going to team up with 29andMe or whatever that DNA testing thing is? And when you fill out your SAT application, you're going to have to submit your DNA application, DNA test at the same time so they can. I mean, my kids are all my kids. All right. When my kids fill out the SAT, they are 75% African American, 45% Chinese, and 37% other. Okay, I mean, who's going to test it? I mean, we just went through this whole college admission scam thing, with parents paying to get their kids into college and paying people to take their SAT score, and people aren't going to game an application to get an extra 100 points on the SAT. This is going to be rife with all kinds of problems down the road. But again, the real challenge here is simply saying and coming back and addressing the real issues with education itself to ensure that our kids are getting educated and that they are prepared to go to college and that they are prepared when they leave college to participate in the environment in which exists in the working world. And that's one of the big problems right now, is that we have a lot of job openings in this country. We have more job openings right now in this country than we actually have people to fill them. And what's the number one complaint of employers? Lack of skills. Lack of skills and lack of skilled ability to fill the positions that are currently open. And yet we have more college graduates today than just about at any other point in history, but a lack of skills to fill the relevant jobs that are available in the economy today. What does that tell you? Be right back after the break. Don't go away.
Lance Roberts' blog. It's required reading for the informed investor. Catch it today on LanceRobertsShow.com.